Biomass. Calculus. I calculated the nitrogen content of Kian's right arm while he slept. It was a specific kind of math that kept me awake during the dark cycles, a mental tally of phosphorus and calcium drifting a few meters from my face. The sturgeon was a cold iron coffin, dead in the water 3 astronomical units from the warmth of the sun. We had been drifting on residual inertia for 8 months since the containment fields collapsed. The main drive was a fused slag heap behind the radiation shield, a monument to the day physics stopped playing nice. Now, the only thing that mattered was the algae. I pushed off the bulkhead. The movement was slow. My muscles had withered to stringy bands of tension, clinging to bones that felt as brittle as dry chalk. Without the constant thrust of an Epstein drive, gravity was a memory. We floated in the freezing dark, rotting from the inside out. The hydroponics bay smelled like methane. It was the smell of life, or at least the chemical process masquerading as life. The tanks were illuminated by emergency LEDs, casting a sickly magenta glow over the bubbling slime. Kian was already there. He floated upside down, his face pressed against the glass of Tank 3. The algae was turning brown. Kian looked at me. His eyes were sunken, dark pits in a face translucent from lack of sun. He tapped the glass. The sound provided a dull thud in the silence. "The culture is crashing, Maggie." I drifted closer to the tank. He was right. The biomass was greying at the edges, the frantic photosynthesis slowing down. We had pushed the nutrient pace too far. Recycled grey water wasn't enough anymore. The closed loop was leaking entropy. We needed fresh input. We needed complex proteins. We needed a harvest. I looked at the roster taped to the wall. It was a list of ghosts. Half the names were already crossed out, their caloric value converted into breathable air. My finger hovered over the next name, Irma. She was in the medical bay, strapped to a bunk to keep from drifting into the ventilation intake. Radiation sickness had taken her hair 3 weeks ago. Now it was taking her stomach lining. She consumed oxygen, she exhaled carbon dioxide, and she produced nothing. In the biomass calculus, she was a deficit. Kian handed me the wrench. It was heavy, a solid bar of machined steel that felt substantial in my hand despite the weightlessness. It was cold enough to burn my palm. "Do it," he whispered. I didn't argue. Argument consumed calories. I took the wrench and kicked off the tank, gliding through the corridor. The ship was freezing. Condensation formed ice crystals on every surface, a glittering layer of frost that coated the wiring harnesses and the hatch seals. My breath plumed in front of me, a temporary cloud that vanished into the scrubbers. The medical bay was dark. Power conservation protocols meant the light stayed off unless surgery was required. I didn't need light. I knew where she was. Irma was awake. I could hear the wet rattle of her breathing. The fluid in her lungs was drowning her slowly, a chaotic counterpoint to the rhythmic wheeze of the ship's life support. She turned her head as I hooked my foot under the railing of her bunk to anchor myself. Her eyes were milky. The radiation had cooked her optic nerves. She couldn't see the wrench, but she knew. Survivors have a sense for the reaper. "Is it time?" she asked. Her voice was thin, vibrating like a wire pulled until it snaps. I didn't answer. Words were expensive. I looked at her wasted frame. There wasn't much meat there, but the bones were rich. The calcium would stabilize the water pH. The nitrates would shock the algae back into a blooming green. She would give us another month. Maybe 2 if we slowed our breathing. Irma closed her eyes. She released a breath that sounded like a sigh of relief. She was tired of freezing. She was tired of the hunger that gnawed at our bellies until acid was all that was left. I raised the wrench. My shoulder popped, the joint dry and grinding. Space is quiet. The only sound is the blood rushing in your own ears, shouting about survival. I swung. The impact didn't make a loud noise. It was a dull crunch, absorbed by the mass of the acceleration couch. Irma stopped rattling. Her body went limp, drifting slightly against the straps. I felt nothing. No horror, no guilt, just a vague calculation of mass times acceleration. The cold had burnt the morality out of me months ago. I was just part of the machinery now. A wetware servo executing a resource management protocol. Getting her to the shredder was the hardest part. Dead weight is clumsy in 0G. I had to tow her, her limbs bumping softly against the bulkheads. We passed the viewport. Outside, the stars were hard, unblinking diamonds. Jupiter was a distant marble, indifferent to our starvation. Kian was waiting by the intake chute. He didn't look at Irma's face. We stripped the jumpsuit off her. The fabric was valuable. We couldn't mulch that. Her skin was grey, mapped with the bruises of purpura. We pushed her into the hopper. The machine was one of the few things we kept fully powered. It hummed, a hungry vibration that shook the deck plating. I pressed the cycle button. The grinder engaged. It wasn't a scream. It was a mechanical, chewing, wet, and heavy. I watched the output monitor. The nutrient density numbers climbed. Phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium. The little green bars rose steadily. In the tank behind us, the pumps hissed, fresh slurry injected into the water. Within minutes, the grey sludge began to brighten. The green deepened, vibrant and horrifying. The scrubbers kicked up a notch as the oxygen output spiked. The air tasted sweeter. It hit the back of my throat, rich and metallic. Kian floated beside me, watching the algae bloom. He took a deep, greedy breath. His chest expanded, his ribs pressing against his skin like the bars of a cage. "Good harvest," he said. I looked at him. I looked at the thick vein pulsing in his neck. I looked at the muscle remaining on his forearms. A month. Irma bought us a month. I gripped the wrench tighter. It was still freezing in my hand. I wondered how much iron was in Kian's blood. I wondered if it would handle the anemia setting in my marrow. I floated there, breathing the fresh oxygen, and started doing the math. This has been Biomass Calculus. Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching right now. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to leave a review or drop a comment. It helps us reach more people, just like you. Thank you for listening.